Does this work?
Yeah, that's gonna be good. Okay, make sure you're just a little bit more closer.
Hello? Hello? Does that work?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, give a round of applause for Daniel.
Hello. I am doing a presentation on DNS filtering and what pie holes are. So let's begin. Who am I? My name is Daniel. I'm a third-year C6 student. I am still learning about security in general. I love playing card games and board games. I'm a big fan of a regular sleep schedule. I'm not a very vocal person, yet I'm here presenting, so that's cool. And I'm always willing to learn more. All right, so in order to understand what DNS filtering is, we have to understand what DNS is. So basically, if you're trying to find a website on the internet, you usually type in the website name, type in google.com. However, your machine doesn't need your domain, it needs an IP address to get there. So basically what you just do is you go to a server, you send the domain to a server called a DNS resolver, and the resolver will either directly send you back the IP address from its cache, or it will recursively go and find it for you. So, and then once you get the IP address back, it sends it to the actual website so you can get what you're looking for. This takes us into what DNS filtering is. So basically, DNS filtering is just the process of using DNS to block malicious sites and filter out anything you want, basically, based on the domain name. So some sites will load additional third-party sites, and if you don't want those sites to load, this can allow you to use a block list. So you can, your DNS server can look at that site and be like, I don't want to load that site. So it'll just not give it to you. So an advertisement, if you load it, okay, you won't load the advertisement since it's on the block list. An alternative to that is an allow list where everything you want is on, every website you want to go to, you have it on that list, and every site that's not on there gets blocked. There are a lot of options for DNS filtering. Some of the common options that I found, there's OpenDNS. OpenDNS is now owned by Cisco, but it has a few options. There's Family Shield. It blocks malicious and adult content. The OpenDNS Home, which it's definitely more interesting. You have more control, but you're not allowed to whitelist specific sites. You can just only block malicious traffic, for instance. They give you the ability to whitelist sites for $20 a year because they want you to give them money. And for businesses, they have Cisco Umbrella. Cloudflare also has a DNS filtering service, 1111 for families. You can have it block only malware or have it block adult content and malware. However, you can't Unlike OpenDNS Home, you can't edit it. You just set it as your DNS server and you go ahead. There's some other options. There's clean browsing. Clean browsing is pretty cool. It has like a security filter, blocks only malicious domains, has an adult filter which also blocks like pornography basically. And then you have the family filter which blocks access to VPN domains that could bypass filters. Mixed content sites, which I find interesting. Apparently Reddit's on the list. Fun fact. And sets YouTube to safe mode. Pretty cool. There's some other options. Sophos, ESET parental controls, Safe DNS, NetNanny, Circle, etc. This is not a comprehensive list. I just wanted to give you a few examples of DNS filters that are available to use. And these IP addresses, most of them you can just set as your primary DNS server and go right ahead. So that leads us into, well, what is a pi-hole? What does it do? A pi-hole is basically just a device that intercepts DNS traffic and doesn't resolve domains that are on its block list. And it'll just send you back a NX domain instead of the actual domain. And that's basically just, to summarize, it's just null for domains. It's a non-existent domain. And if you try to send it to a website, you're going to get that picture. So the way a pi-hole works is you will connect the Raspberry Pi to your router, and you will set the router to forward its DNS traffic to the Raspberry Pi. And on the Raspberry Pi, you just have a list of domains that you'll just choose not to load. And it's pretty cool. There are a lot of confusing things about pi-holes, and I wanted to explain some of them. Will it slow down your network? Surprisingly, not. It can actually increase the speed of your network, because if you don't resolve domains that are associated with ads or like malicious resources, you will spend more time loading what you want. It's pretty cool. And the best part is your Pi-hole also needs a DNS server. So for you can have a DNS filtering server like OpenDNS running and have your Pi-hole connect through OpenDNS to get additional layers of filtering. And it helps catch like edge cases that like maybe some things are not being blocked by either your Pi-hole or OpenDNS. And it allows you to also like, the thing about the Pi-hole is you can customize the list, your block list, and block certain websites if you so choose. You can't really do that with like OpenDNS or most of the DNS filtering options I showed, at least without paying. There are pros and cons to having a Pi-hole on your network. The pros, you have less unwanted content on your network, and you can control content filtering from a central point. This basically would mean that if you have a laptop, a desktop, a phone, you have a smart TV, you don't want to install an ad blocker on every single one you can just set up this block list on your Pi-hole, and it'll block everything for everyone on the network. And it can even work with guests. Pretty cool. And this also allows you to improve overall network performance. There are some cons, however. By setting up a Pi-hole, you have to make it your primary DNS server on your router, and you have to set no other DNS server to be your secondary. This means that if your Pi-hole goes down, your router won't have anywhere to send its DNS traffic. So at least until you change it back to automatic, it will be down. You can also accidentally block, you can have some false positives. You can block content that's some people actually desire. That is, yeah, you can, yeah. And for non-technical users, it may be difficult to set up. It wasn't really that hard for me, but it's more effort than changing your default DNS server. So that may be difficult for some people. So you may be asking yourself, why shouldn't I just use an ad blocker instead of a Pi-hole? Well, I'd argue that there's different benefits to using one over the other. So for the ad blockers, they primarily filter content on the browser. You usually have your ad blocker as a browser extension. This means that if you use a different browser, you have to either reinstall that ad blocker on the new browser, or you'll see ads again. This can make it very difficult to scale upwards with ad blockers. On the flip side, it's very easy to install an ad blocker. You just look it up, just look it up and download it and run it. Also, if you have a ad blocker, it's very easy to customize it. You can usually, while you're browsing, customize your ad blocker to block specific resources if they're not already blocked, and you can unblock resources pretty well. And if you make changes you don't like, you can revert them pretty easily. On the other side of this, a Pi-hole, it's a network-wide filter, which means that it's going to affect everyone on the network. And that means you can't have it be too specific or too strict, because if it's too strict, some people won't get what they want. For instance, apparently if you set up a Pi-hole, it's possible that Hulu will just stop giving you like the video if you just block all their ads. Fun fact. It also requires some technical skill to install a Raspberry Pi. Like, you have to also have a Raspberry Pi. It technically costs money. You have to know how to connect it to your router. You have to know how to install the Pi OS. And it's probably a piece of cake for almost everyone in this room, but it is something to consider. Also, you can block ads in very non-traditional places, like smart TVs, mobile apps. There's no real ad blocker for your smart fridge, but Pi-hole could definitely help you there. Pretty cool. Also, you can block ads before they're downloaded, because normal ad blockers, they usually what the content will already be downloaded onto your browser, but they'll hide it from your view. Whereas Pi-hole, the content never, like the ads or malicious domains never reach your computer. They get stopped at the Pi-hole. And yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Have you set up your own at home or something?
I did. And I also quickly learned that, fun fact, if you have parents and they actually use ads, it's funny. My dad actually made me take it down because he wanted to go to Google and click on an advertisement to find what he wanted. Do we have any other questions? All right, I should be good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Daniel.